gosh, what else can I buy? I'm even doing that. I have so many areas that I'm buying and selling land all over the country. And I'm like, shucks, I want to go. I'm kind of trolling back through some of the deals that I kicked to the curb to see maybe there's something there because I could sell it so faster than I want to. So crazy stuff's happening right now. I'm looking for, let me see here. Should be jumping in soon. Hi, Ireland. Nice to see you here. Good group. I see joining in. I'm not sure where Stephen went. He'll be back. But so this is just kind of we did this last time. There you are. Last time we did this as just kind of a free flowing, no topic, open forum so everybody can ask anything they want about investing. And a little bit about us. Hello, Jack. How are you? I do not have your audio yet.
Hello, I'm here. Hello,
There,
I'm good.
good.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was explaining to the room. I'm so grateful and happy that Dolly Parton is off now talking, so I don't have to compete with that. I guess she has an album coming out tomorrow. That is really cool for her. Can you imagine how old is she? And she's, it's kind of like us though too. I don't see us ever retiring because I love what we do and it's very, very profitable. So I would probably still be cranking out albums too.
I have nothing but liquid respect for her.
Totally.
Not my favorite
Absolutely.
kind of music, but geez, amazing talent, rags to riches story, and
Hmm.
materially put country music on the map. So really, really
Exactly.
impressive career.
Totally. I think it's so great. Cool. So for those of you just joining, quick little backstory. We are Jack and Jill, as you can see, and we are Land Academy. We are the co-founders. It's been going for 7 years now, going on 8 years. And this first started because Steven started in the 90s, figured out this amazing way to basically buy it right, find rural vacant land, mark it up, usually double it, and sell it fast on the internet, sight unseen. That's kind of the basics of what we do. And just you've been doing it for decades now. I came along 12 so years ago, 12, 13 years ago, and joined forces with him. And then we launched Land Academy in 2015. And whoa, hold on. I mean, the deals are people are doing and blowing me away. And we're here to answer questions and share knowledge and help you if you want to get into this. There's plenty of property to go around. I
I'd love to
promise.
hear from. We have a bunch of existing members
Mhm.
on. I can see here on this call.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear from them and see how it's going.
Yeah. So everybody, yeah, please pipe in and raise your hand if you wants to share some of your story and some of your deals. By the way, you all, for those of you on here um, who watched or participated in our Facebook Live last week, you blew me away. I asked our existing people just to give me some stats on a deal. I want to know like your favorite deal or your best deal or what you got going on now. I said, give me state, purchase price, and sales price. And I was blown away with these crazy numbers that came out. It was, and how many people, had positive things to say and to share. And I'm sure people were watching that Facebook event going, what are you talking about? It was Facebook and YouTube Live at the same time. And I'm sure they're going, this can't be real, but yeah, it is. I'm here to tell you.
Give us some examples, Joe.
Well, well, there's lots of bought for 30s, sold for 90s.
This is what we typically do if you're new here.
Mm-hmm.
Buy property for $10, $20, $30,000, sell it for 50, 60, 70, 80, sometimes a lot more, $1,000, and it's land. So there's not a lot, if anything, involved from an improvement standpoint or anything like that. We quite simply buy it because we send a lot of blind offers out. Send it to a real estate agent after it's purchased. The escrow company closes it. We send it to a vetted real estate agent who markets it under our direction, and when they resell it.
Mm-hmm. That's our new way. We didn't always do it that way. We did a lot of the work ourselves. And I know a lot of people in this room are doing it on their own, and they're killing it too, which is awesome. I love it. Please make sure too, as you're listening, and jump in anytime, ask any questions. Somebody makes sense to you, or you have someone who might get something out of this. Make sure you ping them, invite them into the room, and follow us and follow the Land Investing Club so you're always notified whenever we're here, um, and sharing stuff with you. So I love some questions. Did somebody go? Brooklyn's up here. Brooklyn's not going to ask any, or are you going to ask some questions, Brooklyn? That would be funny. You sure can. I'm trying to think of a good deal that I've got going down this week. I have kind of a funny one where that my agent. I have an agent who brought this deal to me, and in the truth time, access. There is access. It should be legal. A title company along the way dropped the ball, and it didn't all get recorded, which is really kind of silly. But there's physical access, just not legal access. It's not the end of the world. I have a buyer, and when the agent brought it to me, it's kind of he's teaching his daughter how to do real estate, and he brought the deal to me, and I said, look, it's really inexpensive property. He's like, the deal's like 18,000 to sell. I bought it for 5, and I'm like, I really want to get 20 out of this. And so he went back, and it was funny because the agent on the the one who's representing the buyer, is his daughter. So he said, "Can you get me 20?" He goes, "Yeah, hang on a minute." And he called me back, and it was really kind of funny because he was kind of making a joke about yelling at his daughter, saying, "You need to get your buyer up to 20." Because I need to get my 20 out of it. And we did, and it's working out just fine. So, do you have a funny acquisition or sale or some? You got some interesting deals. I saw you push through the system, Jack.
Yeah, we have, this, there's a property I was just working on right before I logged on to this call. We bought a property. There's one section of property that's drivable from where we live in Arizona. And so, I don't know, this is several months ago. I drove down to look at 4 properties all at once. And for whatever reason, during that call or during that trip, I had cell service. So I called Joe and drove to a property and said, listen, we should not buy this property.
Right.
And Jill said, okay, I'll mark it off the list. Thanks. And I'll see you later. And then she calls back. This is my business partner now.
Well, I
Calls you
called
back
them
and
to tell
says,
them no, thank you. I was trying to be nice and not go dark and tell them, hey, thanks so much, but we changed our minds. We're not interested at all. And they said, what would you pay? I'm like, oh no. All right. So continue.
so it's 10 acres. It's 10 acres on a very, it's a very well maintained state dirt road, soon to be, because it's a real high growth area, soon to be paved, I'm sure. And with all kinds of stuff going on around it. So it wasn't really by any stretch, a very, very rural areas, maybe 20 minutes into the little town there. Which is an old Western town that Jill and I have a blast in just for fun sometimes. And so I said, so Jill calls me back and says, well, they want to sell it. So what would you pay? And I said, I don't know, $10,000. And she came back, called me back and said, and usually we don't go back and forth like this. It's not a regular deal
Mm-mm.
for us. Usually Jill would just decide and we
It was
won't even
it
really
was
talk
a
about it.
just
And she
okay,
knew I was
fine. If
out
they
there.
say this, we'll do it.
So I said, and she called back and said 12.5 is what they want, $12,500. And I said, okay, we have to buy it at this because it's got
Hmm.
great access and there's a bunch of stuff around it. It's just kind of far off the main road. That was my only concern. So fast forward to now, I just got notice back. Jill and I both got notice back from the county that the property, we subdivided or split it into 5 separate 2-acre properties. And yeah, I guess it's 10 acres.
Hmm.
And so now we have 5 separate APNs, assessor parcel numbers. And because it took
Which
so
took us,
long,
yeah, it took us 9 months
the property's
roughly to do
worth,
that.
you
Hmm.
know, way more than what it was back then. So we'll end up selling. I Everybody's asking me to price it. I'm going to price them at like
Well,
$32,000 each.
that's what I was going to say. Or one big lump one. So, since we're having a partners meeting on this call, can we talk about that for a second? I found someone posted one for 250 or something like that. Exact same size property in the vicinity, not split, but it does have high days on market. I think they price it too high.
Sure.
So I'm thinking, so the guy that I have, on board to sell it, who we've done deals with, which I really, really like, said, "Do you guys want me to list it for 200?" I'm like, "Okay, hold on a moment." So that's why I'm waiting for you to say, "Do you want to come in a bundle at 200 or 30 something, whatever each?" Is that what you're thinking?
I was thinking 32.5 each
Mm-hmm.
with a 10% discount if you buy all five, because there's some huge value in splitting these properties, time, and there's a survey and all kinds of other stuff. And I
That
know there's
was my
water out. All
point.
the properties come with water rights and the whole thing. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I might be maybe 38.5 or something like that, Joe. I'll really look into it. I know there's some
Okay, good.
overpriced property there, but I also know it really sells fast. So
Right. Look, for the right person who's ready to go and has the mobiles ready or whatever they want to do, we did 9 months of work for them,
yes,
and that's the value.
and there's people down there looking for
Hmm.
adjacent 5 acre, 2 acre properties to put mobile homes on and resell all day.
Hmm.
So somebody will buy it probably really
Exactly.
quickly. In fact, now that we're talking about this clubhouse, I guess we're having a clubhouse land meeting.
We are.
Yeah, I think that if we got anything north of 150, I'd be elated.
That's what I think. That's 100x your property. It's 100x, not 10x. Or
Yeah,
is
I
it a
mean it's
1000x? What is it?
it's 10 times. So we buy it for 15,000 ish and
To
sell
sell
for
for
150.
150,000?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's some of the numbers people threw around last week.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So, this is the stuff that people go, "What?" And I'm sure there's people in this room right now listening going, "What are you talking about? How in the heck are you finding these properties and making that much money on it? It's land. What did you do to it?" Okay, and granted, in this situation, I did do something to it. I split it up in different APNs. That's all I did. I mean, I actually have not, I don't have eyes on it. I've
And
not
all we
stood
did was
on it.
hire an engineering company. We didn't have to even do any paperwork. We
Mm-hmm.
hired an engineering company that did the split for us and dealt with the county and the forms and all that. We just signed our names a bunch of times
Mm-hmm.
and
And
wrote some
even that,
checks.
well, and we didn't even have to do much. Our transaction coordinator did that, which is nice because she's paperwork happy. So and that probably was it 8 or 10? I mean, so really we're all in. I'll take truth time. We bought it for 12.5. We spent maybe 10,000 on the split stuff, right? So let's
That's high,
say,
but yes,
okay, I'm aiming high to be realistic. And
sure.
then closing costs, blah blah blah. So maybe I'm all in for 25,000. Fine with that. I'm still happy with 25,000 to sell for 150 on the bottom side. I got three right now. Number two is on the market, full asking price. Three properties in Oregon or Washington. I deal funded it. I'm looking to see if they're on this call right now, and I don't think I see them. But three properties all together for like 38.5. We're selling each one of them for 38.5. Two are gone, and now we
Hmm.
have one more to sell. So by the time we're done, you know, we bought for 40 and we're selling for, 120 almost.
So I would love to talk about
Hmm.
some of the negative things that go on in this business instead of just talking about all the positive. Like we've all known somebody or been friends with a person that's like, I just won $10,000 at this casino.
Yeah.
And anytime I ever hear anybody say something like that, my first thought is, yeah, but what about the $100,000 you lost? So congratulations, you had a good day, but what's the real deal here? So how do you
But
think
my
that applies to our business? Like, what do you think the real hangups are? And if it's so easy, Jill, why doesn't everybody do it?
uh, well, number one, I don't think they get it. There's still some big misconceptions about rural vacant land. I think a lot of people don't think it's cool, don't think it's sexy. It's not on HGTV, so it can't be any fun. I mean, what the heck? You guys sit at your desk all day. That's no fun. You don't get to go to Home Depot and pick out blinds. thank goodness I'm not in Home Depot picking out blinds. So I see that as a positive, but I don't think a lot of people get it. Number one. And then number two, there are still some moving parts, but I'm going to argue our moving parts are not like other people's moving parts. You know what I mean? I'm still going to say, yeah, it's not like there's three steps and you never do anything but these same three. It's only three steps. Sure, there's like way more than three, but it's still, I don't have to do inspections and I'm not dealing with this and I'm not dealing with that and, you know, lenders and such and such. So, what do you think, Stephen?
Oh, thanks for asking.
You
I
asked
think
me the question, so I want to dive in.
I'm real serious about this. The stuff that goes wrong, and it's not often, but the stuff that goes wrong in this business for people, after 7 years of teaching this with you, Jill,
Hmm.
it would go wrong if the person that's not having success with it, it would go wrong with any business they owned.
Oh, that's true.
So it's
I do
not so
agree with
much
that.
that there's something wrong with the business. I honestly think it's more that there's something wrong with either
The,
the person's isn't allocating the right amount of time or
mm,
the right amount of energy or resources to it that it actually needs. Because it's not like day trading stock. It's not log in, pick some stock, do some research, hit a few buttons, and then go about your day.
I hear you. Hey, Chip.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, we
Absolutely.
gotcha.
I apologize. I'm literally walking my kids home from school right now, but I
Good
had
for
to
you.
chime in when you mentioned like what are some of the, I guess, pitfalls you would say in the land
Sure.
business. What I've been running into lately is having my deal stolen. So the whole business model works perfectly as far as sending out the blind offers. It works like a dream. The problem is if you get a smoking deal, oftentimes the seller, or at least in my experience with these bigger deals that I've had recently, they talk to their neighbor. A super realtor comes in and saves the day from scam man perceived or whatever. They talk to the cattleman to let the cattleman I'm flying in town next week to open the gate for me. And he asks how much you sold it for, and then he asks him why you giving it away. And you know that hurts. I had one 287 acres at $7,500 an acre, and it got stolen by cattleman and realtor, and they bought it for 17.5 an acre.
So
Ouch.
yeah, that hurts. We've all had that happen to us. How often, like as a percentage? I mean, does it
Yeah,
happen?
it's just I think on the larger dollar amount transactions, there's more people that talk about them versus a smaller deal where they just do the deal. When you're into the millions of dollars, I think, there's more inclined to ask a friend, ask a realtor or something. And of course, every
Yeah.
realtor wants to get involved. And so that's the challenge that I think that's kind of unavoidable part of the business you just deal with, you know.
This is
Um,
actually exactly why I brought this up. I'm so glad you brought it up because we're in the middle of a career path right now, talking about some of these things, and there's the way to address this. You're obviously swinging for the
Send more
fences, which is
mail.
awesome. Yeah, well, that's one way.
Exactly.
The way to address it, I think, is to pick maybe a different slot niche. So buy for 30, sell for 60. That's very unlikely that that's going to happen, but buy for 250 and sell for 1,200,000, which we've all done. There's a lot more chance for some stuff to
Well,
go sideways that way.
I've taken your model and I've put my spin on it because my previous life, I worked directly for the largest rural ranch land developer in the country. And I know a half a dozen of his spinoffs and have worked in some form or fashion with him over the years and raw land development events. And so I know what they're looking for. I have the buyers. I reverse engineer the math. And then in this market, I can come in 90+% of value, if not at market, and then just mark it up a little bit and then turn it over to those guys. So I'm going to start doing your model too, as far as the red, yellow, green test. it's just hard to leave a buyer in the hand or 6 buyers in the hand and go to a market and drive my own buyers. I guess I'm
Yeah.
intimidated by that at this point.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why God created whiskey.
True.
Well, one of the reasons.
But the model works. I think it's just a numbers game. I'm going to have some of this fall out. I actually released the contract just because they were squirming so much, and now they're bringing me back into the fold, and want to do business with me another way. It won't be 600 grand, but it'll be 100 grand. So, I want to be able to sleep at night after doing a deal, and everybody's going to want to do the deal. So it makes sense.
Yeah, especially if you're playing in that sandbox over and over again, like we are. You don't want to alienate
Exactly.
anybody.
You don't want to burn bridges. You want to keep your name.
Good attitude. You're right. It will come back. They'll
It
remember
will.
you.
What's your budget look like this year, Chip? Like, how many deals do you think you're due? What do you think you'll net per deal? Like, give me some good math.
Well, I know you don't agree with typically the model that I'm doing because I'm doing assignments on these larger deals, but I'm completely 100% transparent with both the seller and the buyers know exactly what I'm doing. So there's no issues there. Just because I don't have the capital to stroke for, the one I've got right now is 2.2 million and I've got it marked up to 2.5, to do that. And that return on investment may not be great enough for someone to outlay $2.2 million on, you know what I mean? So it makes sense in an assignment world, and it happens all the time with these guys in those larger land deals. They assign things every day. So they're used to it. The smaller deals, I started with your model doing just infill lots, again, to builders that I know personally. And so I was filling their need to prove the model to myself. So I did that last year and closed about 15 deals, netted about 60 grand. They were small deals, like buy for 4, sell for 8. Then the market changed, buy for 10, sell for 15 or 13
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. So they weren't home runs, but they were more proving myself that the concept worked. And then knowing all along that I've got these other big guys that are just dying for land. So now these guys can't figure out how I'm doing it. They're picking my brain. And, the one head acquisitions guy for the big company takes me to dinner the other night when I was in town. And, he said, we thought what we're trying to figure out, but by the time we do it, you're 6-7 months ahead of us anyway. We just want you to come to us first with your deals. And I'm like, all right, just the more information you give me as far as price per acre and what area, then I can go shopping for you.
I've done that in the past where you get one buyer who's just cash rich or has access to capital, and you start to create mailers around what they want, and it works until they stop buying. So, but I think
Right.
that's a great plan.
It's the least capital intensive model that I can think, using the same mailing model. You know what I mean? And it's the same 60 cents whether I'm trying to buy $1 million piece of property or a $5,000 piece of property.
We do a version of that in one specific place in Texas where I know that there's a buyer that does one specific thing with the property, and I know exactly what they need. I know what the zoning needs to be, and it's real easy for me to spend a couple hours gathering the data and sending out a real strategic, specific use mailer, and then buying the property and just sending it to them.
That's what I'm doing. I'm boiling it down to the zip code as you
Excellent.
taught me, and scraping for all that and getting it out. The problem is there's just such a fewer quantity for landowners in the size that I'm looking for
Sure.
versus the smaller stuff. There's, thousands of people, where when you get into the bigger stuff, there's a couple hundred. So it's a little bit time. It takes a little bit longer to get out the enough mail that I want to yield the results.
Sure. More phone time too, and more negotiation and more about that.
Yep. Yep. Exactly.
I gotta ask, if you had the capital chip and you weren't assigning the deals, do you think you would have held on to more of them?
No, that hasn't been a factor. And I know you guys are there. I have some other people in my back pocket as well that would be interested in playing in their real estate background also. So I'm hunting big game. At the same time, I want to do smaller stuff. But then at the other end, I just threw out a bunch of mail for single family townhomes in my backyard because my wife is just crazy with this investment group that we're involved with. She did 136 SFR transactions last year. She's got 31 closings in the month of March, and so I've got to fill a need for her as far as inventory. They've got more buyers than they know what to do with, and not enough homes to fill. So
Isn't
that's
that
one area that I
great?
might go to deal funding on soon.
So
There you
your wife's the
go.
breadwinner, and you're walking the kids home from school today.
Well, exactly, because I left my 2 decade year career as a medical sales executive when I discovered this model. And basically I go to the annual business review, and the president's secretary told me that his year off for a non-compete was the best thing that happened to him, because he got to know his daughters, who are now
Yeah.
graduating college. And I looked around and I'm like, what the hell am I doing here? I know I can
Yeah,
make
absolutely.
this is great income, great salary and bonus and benefits and all that crap, but I'll never be free. And I want to know, I want to walk my kids home from school. You know what I
Yep.
mean? So now I'm in a race to replace that income with these big deals so I can give my wife a break.
That's
Excellent.
awesome.
Jill and I trade off all the time.
Usually we don't fight for the kids, though. It's usually, no, you take them. No, you take them. It's a little
Well,
bit
there's
different.
his kids sound like they're still little. They're school age, so
Yeah,
I
I'm
know.
in between them fighting.
yeah.
No, it's now they call and we're like, okay, guess what this one did? This is your child.
Hmm.
I do want, I've got another deal in contract that I've shopped to these other guys, these same developers, and it's a solid road frontage deal in Texas that's just easy split. And I'm trying to do a quick markup with them, but I may present it on this evening's call as something to take down and quickly sell to net, I don't know, 300 or something like that.
How fast can you, following up on what Jill said, how fast can you close on a deal if you had the money, cash in hand, and and then because I understand you don't think it matters, but I really think it matters if you're the owner.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's always due diligence, and on these bigger ones, I'm asking for 65 days, and that's so ample studies, test wells, and whatnot can be dug for the end buyer. And so that's one thing that we get, on this bigger stuff we have to do, especially in some of the counties I'm working. It's literally feet, difference from where you are in the county, and you can be dry as a bone or hundreds of feet of well water, So that's also the other challenge right now,
Oh,
not having enormous amounts of capital. It makes sense for me to pass off that cost to the end buyer in the assignment structure that I have worked out. Um,
does the end buyer go through all the due diligence to make sure that stuff doesn't happen before they buy?
yes, exactly. They have to,
Okay,
because they're reselling them to other people once they break them up into 2, 3, 5 acre tracts.
sure. You know what? Your way's better.
I,
I
I
don't think
feel
you'd
like
want to
it
just.
right now,
You
and
don't want to blow in. You don't want to spend $2 million and find out it doesn't have water.
yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah, exactly. Or you got to find that out in the due diligence, Um, but capital is king, and you do have more power with that. And shit, Steve, Jack, I worked for these companies that did these land events, and so that's my phase one is wholesaling for huge nets so that I can take down or partner with other takedowns and then run the event myself, because I used to work in the office that managed the people working the phones to create these land sale 1 day events that sell out every time. And so I know the model inside and out, and that's kind of phase two for me. And I've got people that I used to work with that are already asking me, all right, when you get in a deal so we can plug in and just do this. And so that's where capital could come into play on some of these deals. Um, Namely the one I'm talking about later tonight. It's 90 acres in Comanche County that I've got, that it's an easy road split into 9 tracks, and we can market the crap out of it and dump it in a weekend for
Yeah,
sure.
you're like 3 tweaks away from having this blow open on for your bank account.
Oh my God. My wife has no idea.
Yeah, that's fantastic, man. I'm really glad this is working out for you. I'm glad that you. This is how it's supposed to work. You're supposed to really kind of learn from us, be involved in the community, and then put your own little twist on it. And I'm glad it's working.
It is. It is. I haven't hit it yet, but I mean, I've proven the concept over and over. There's no doubt that it works. It's a slower game that I'm playing right now.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you, Chip. That was great.
Congratulations.
I
Thanks.
guess that was
Yes.
pitfalls of the deal. It kind of spun out of control. Sorry.
It's fun into all the positives and all the money. This is all the bad stuff. Well, how much did you make? Well, I made this, but it sucked all the way up.
I
Well,
like to keep my mouth closed until I can have those conversations about how much I made. But we're not there yet
I know you
on the
said a
big
lot of
deal.
stuff on this call, but this is what I heard. My wife makes a ton of money. I get to pick up the kids from school. I'm working on some multi-million-dollar stuff. I'm happy.
Yep.
I'll be happier when this closes. On or before April 29th is the one that I sent via DocuSign today. So call me on the 1st of May.
Yeah, all this under the air quotes pitfalls.
Yep.
Right.
I love it.
Praying for water, man. Praying for water.
Excellent. Hey,
So
Jessica.
Thanks, Chip. Appreciate
Yeah.
your participation.
thank you.
Hey y'all.
Hi, how are
Hi,
you?
Jessica.
Good, how are y'all?
Good,
Excellent.
thank you. Do you have a pitfall that's going to turn positive, or what do you got?
Well, I just got the kids off the bus too, Chip, so I'm with you.
Cool.
Um, but y'all hit right on a point that I thought was so funny because a couple of years ago I thought my last kid's entering grade school. I'm gonna get into real estate, do rentals with rehabs, burrs basically, and that's what I'm gonna do for my next chapter. And I'm not real great at networking and everything, but I decided I'm gonna go to the local REI meetup and just meet a ton of people, even if it's uncomfortable. I'm gonna go do it. So I did. I went to the meeting and I was like, well, what do you do? Well, I do rental houses. Next guy, I do, apartment syndications. Oh, okay, very interesting. And every person I talked to, it was like, oh, that's interesting. That's a different niche. Let me hear about that. And then, halfway through the first meeting that I went to, the guy says, I do land. And I said, oh. And I literally had zero idea what to say to the guy. Like, I just had no clue. I didn't know what questions to ask. And I was like, that's like the most boring thing ever. I just,
Yep.
and, so fast forward maybe a year and a half later, I never saw that guy again, but I'd done one burr. I had two burrs under my belt, actually, 2 units, and went back to that same meeting and I saw that land guy for the first time since I'd started going to those meetings. Well, now I was all involved with land. And I said, I remember you from,
Oh,
from my very first meeting. And we had such a productive conversation then because I knew what to ask. So
that's awesome.
land sounds boring, but it's way more exciting once the dollars start rolling in. So
Yes, it is.
Exactly.
but most of the pitfalls I've been running into are people related. Um, just
Yeah,
people are
that's not
sellers can be unpredictable.
that's not land specific. Most of the pitfalls I run into are people related to, even in my own house.
Good point. Back to, again, that's why God made whiskey.
Yes, thank you. So
I guess
I want to hear your story, Jessica, but before you go any further, can you describe what this land guy looked like? Did he have coveralls on with a piece of straw in his teeth? And what does he look like?
no, I'm in suburban Atlanta. He was just like a regular old, khakis and a button-up guy, actually. But I was there in jeans and a t-shirt, I suppose. So I probably didn't look like a lot of the fancy guys, but
Because that's what we all look like.
oh,
Coveralls and a
Exactly.
red cap
cowboy
that's
hats.
got oil
I
on it.
love going to those. Those things crack me up. And then when I go with Jack, like I'm eye candy or something. I don't know. They're like, oh, she can't possibly know anything. I'm just like, I'm following around my man. I'm sure that's what they think. And I'm just like, yep, You think what you want, whatever.
Mhm.
It's kind of funny. And then I drop something brilliant. They're like, what just happened?
Like I've
That's
always
right.
said, Joe, I'm the Jackie Onassis in this, and you're the
Oh,
John F. Kennedy.
thanks. That's
So,
awesome.
Jessica, how many deals is it all working out for you?
Well, slowly but surely, yeah, it is. Yeah.
Good. So like, well, okay, give us some pitfalls. What's the slowly part pitfall wise?
Oh, well, most of my pitfalls just mostly have to do with restrictions on my time and that kind of thing personally. But um, if I was 25 and single,
Yep.
I'd have, but I get to get my kids off the bus, so that's the plus to that. But yeah, just people are crazy. Like I'm just trying to get this one lady to sign a lien um, payoff release so
Mhm.
the title company can order the lien payoff number, and she just cannot figure out how to do it. I had another lady recently that decided almost at the closing that she wasn't going to sign the deed over until she had money in her hand, and I was like, yeah, that's not
That's not how it works.
not how it works. I had
Yeah.
another one that couldn't understand, even though we were going through title, why couldn't I show up with $20,000 in cash and actual bills in front of the police station, that kind of thing. Just people are just weird. Um, and
Makes me wonder about these people. Like, what's going on in your world, and what are you going to try to do with this green cash? It's a little
the
scary.
same lady that can't get her form signed was like really somehow offended about the title company asking for a driver's license, and I'm like, well, don't you want them to ask who you are so that somebody else can come and try to sell your property? That's for your protection as much as it is for mine. And then I realized later she had to go order a driver's license.
Oh, because
I was like, oh my
she
gosh.
hasn't needed it in 4 years, so why do I need it now?
She drives this week. I actually met her at the land. I don't ever do that, but this one was not far from me, and she drives this sweet custom colored like violet Mustang. So
Oh my
she's
gosh,
driving.
that's
Yeah. Driving without a
hilarious.
license.
But didn't have a driver's license. So that's just that kind of stuff. But the more I do it, the more I realize you just have to you just have to make sure to maintain that relationship, that connection, and just always be in communication with them, and things go better. Is what I'm
Ding
learning.
ding.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Exactly. You want to be the person, you want to befriend them and have, like you said, have that relationship. So if something goes sideways, they call you and they don't go dark and they take
Yeah.
your call when they don't understand why the title company needs an ID,
Oh my
and
gosh.
things like that. Why does a notary need an ID? Okay, we'll just take your word for it. Come on. Exactly. That's really, really good. That's so funny.
So, what's on deck for you? Like, let's say this year, what's your budget look like?
Well, my baseline, I really liked your budget, by the way. So thank you for that. The new one that you gave us.
Oh, good, good. Okay, good.
Yeah. And I was putting that together last week, and I sat at the kitchen table. Um, I had printed out different scenarios, and I was kind of studying them. And my 13-year-old was there, and I was like, if I do, 2 deals a month. So that's what that was finally what I said was if I could do this year 2 deals a month, buy at 20, sell at 40, then that would be good. And but I had printed out a bunch of scenarios, and my 13-year-old was sitting at the kitchen table with me eating her breakfast, and I was like, look at this. Look what if I did um, buy for 30, sell for 60. This is what number would come out at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Just like showing her the different things and her eyes. My eyes get
Yeah.
real big too. I've never made that kind of money before. So, that budget was very helpful just to be able to visualize to the end of the year.
Isn't it great? And when you back it up like that, when you're like, oh, well, shoot, I could do 2 deals a month. I mean, come on, that's one
Yeah,
every 2 weeks. When you go, all right, and these are the numbers I got to hit, and you could see I'm going to make 1 point what this
yeah.
year? Okay, I can do this.
It's life-changing numbers. It can be real quick.
It can.
Yeah.
And I love that, not to make this all positive, because Stephen, bless his heart, brought up a great topic today, pitfalls, so which is awesome. But you know, it, it's you can turn it up and turn it down. You know, like you are a perfect example, Jessica. Like I have X amount of time. Those are my issues. It's not money. It's not knowledge. It's not experience. I can get past the kooky little quirky things. It's your personal time. So I get that. So you're going to make your deals count. And then at some point you can turn it up and or dial it back however you want to. We got people I had that one mom years ago that was doing one or two deals a year, but she was making them count, you know, kind of thing. It's like
Yeah,
crazy
I
big
see that.
numbers. I'm
That
like,
was
all
7
right.
years ago, Joe. I bet her kids are in college and stuff now.
I know. What is her name? I want to say
I'm still
Haley.
kind
No,
of stuck on how Jessica
Claire.
likes my new budget.
Claire.
Your
You walk up
spreadsheet's so
to,
sexy.
yeah, you should
Yes.
walk up to strange men and say, hey, I really like your new budget. You're going to get anything you want in life.
I mean, it's not that it's that complicated, but I think, especially in the beginning when you're trying to cram so much information in your head, you know, when you're trying to build a new skill set and just learn all the things and do all the things yourself, it's just hard to, sometimes you lose that higher perspective, you know, like if I'm just consistent, if I just get the mail out, this is what this little bit will equal at the end of the year. So like, I think being able to zoom out and see that perspective was great.
Mm-hmm.
We have a couple in career path right now who have done, they've been with us since the beginning and done extremely well by my, maybe not their standards, but by Jill and I's standards. You know, they make $500,000 every year consistently and still have their regular jobs and stuff. And so they joined career path to make it bigger, to times 5 it or 10 it. And what we've learned through career path, what I've learned is, I hope they're on this call actually.
I'm looking.
What learned is that they fall in love with these transactions and then myopically do them. So they'll just love on the land and write descriptions, and it just takes forever. And versus just like doing according to go follow what the budget says and just churn this stuff through, buy it and sell it, buy it and sell it. Don't try to maximize value on every single price kind of thing. So everybody's got a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I can
Exactly.
see that.
Yep. I get it. And usually it's the speaking of pitfalls, what usually stands in our own way is us.
Ourselves.
And
Or
it's
maybe
like
maybe our
commitment.
partners.
Sometimes afraid to add a zero. That's my favorite one. I'm like, you know, it's sure it sounds scary going from a $5,000 deal to a $50,000 deal. I'm like, but you got to do it. And then you do it and you're like, wow, that was actually easier, right? Now do it again.
Yeah, and I think that's like I set my baseline at buy at 20, sell for 40, but I sent out some offers last month that were approaching 6 digits. And, I was checking the numbers like, oh, a little panicked. And it's like, yep, no, I'm good, send it. So, if a few of those is bigger, then even better. I'm not gonna stay in the buy at 20, sell at 40, because I know the less transactions, the less crazy people driving their custom colored violet Mustangs that don't have driver's licenses I have to deal with.
Exactly.
Yep.
I probably will have less of those to deal with if I'm selling for 100,000, I'm guessing.
Pretty much. They probably all have an ID in their wallets at that point.
Exactly.
I
And
would
somebody
agree.
else can sell it for me.
Yeah.
Say
Jump in,
I
Chip.
agree. The offer prices can be intimidating sometimes when you look at them. You're like, I'm about to offer this. All right, send it.
If you really want to freak yourself out, add up what you're offering. So in the whole mailer,
Oh
we have
yeah,
different.
Oh
I
gosh.
always do that at the top of the Excel column, and it's tens of millions of
Tens
dollars.
of millions of dollars.
But I do the same thing with potential commission, and so that looks, that solves that.
I think it helped that I started on houses. So $20,000 doesn't, in the big scheme of things, that's easier to manage.
We have a lot of recovering house flippers in our group.
I'm sure.
Yes.
But now I think one day I'll have the money to, still invest in rentals, but it'll be, turnkey stuff that I can.
It's really funny you say that because Joe and I are in the process. There's a couple of very specific condominium complexes where we either own property now or have owned it in the past, and we're going back to the well because we can pay cash for these units. They rent really fast. There's almost no maintenance at all, and they appreciate really well. So it's funny how times changes over time. Like if somebody said you're going to go buy a bunch of rentals this year, last year even, I would have said you're off your rocker. I'll never do that again. Here we are.
Sometimes it makes sense. I hate to jump in, but on the topic, I own the property directly next door to my primary residence. Why? Because it's lakefront. I can walk my kids to all three different types of schools. It's got walking distance to restaurants, and it's in the top rated school district. So why wouldn't I buy that? And it was an REO, and they mispriced it by $200,000. So
Yep.
yes, I'll buy that and rent it forever.
How long ago was that REO, Chip? Was it like during the downturn or recently?
It was in 2016 when I bought it. I bought my house in 2015. A year later, I'm getting it appraised and buying the one directly next door for 320 when my appraisal came back at 515,
Wow.
like
Great
within
work.
weeks.
Great work.
Yeah, so
That's
you keep those.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Just don't move the family in next door. Don't move the in-laws in.
Yeah, your in-laws,
No,
right?
That's
Or don't move in
awesome.
there yourself when the going gets tough.
That
it's
too.
funny you mentioned that. I literally just sent mail to all the one-story townhomes in my neighborhood to try to find a spot for my parents or not another rental.
It's built-in babysitting.
Yep.
Exactly.
Hey AJ, how are you?
I am living the dream. How are you guys?
Great,
Excellent. Thanks for
thanks.
joining us.
Yeah,
Do you have a
absolutely.
pitfall or what do you want to share?
I do. Yeah, well, a couple of them actually.
Oh, cool.
So we started with one of your competitors. Most people know him as the Geek,
Mm-hmm.
Where's
and
Mark?
Mark.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, and the whole secret county thing sounded suspicious from the start, but we went with it. So one of the pitfalls I would say is just not getting exposure to all the education that's available out there. I mean, your guys' program is the best by far. I'm not just saying that because I'm on this call, because I actually believe it. But there's
Thank
so much
you.
other education out there. So a pitfall can be, accepting things at face value and not doing your own research and looking for other perspectives and participating like in this community and on these calls to hear the other methods and niches and all the different ways you can go with this. So I think that's a big thing people need to watch out for.
All right, so Mark Podolsky's a pitfall. Check. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll say it publicly. I'm good with that. Yep. And
Uh,
then another one we experienced personally. My partner and I, we're big time planners. Everything's got to be right. It's got to be put together, and then we start. So we drug our feet a little bit, went through the content several times, and said, you know what? Screw it. Let's jump in. And all of our systems and processes weren't in place, which made us both uncomfortable. But I wish we would have just started sooner and not drug our feet. So, I mean, any guru of any pick a topic will tell you the same thing. Don't wait to start, just jump in and figure it out as you go. So don't hesitate, don't worry if the money's going to be there. I mean, you guys preach that day in and day out, but still, I mean, we heard you say it, but it was still really hard to let go and make that jump. So don't doubt the process.
Yeah, I mean, Jill's. The truth is, I'm a real systems / I'm like you, and the more I am a partner with Jill, the more I just like screw it. I'm gonna send it out. I'm gonna send 50,000 units out and see what happens.
yeah, he doesn't warn me anymore because I said I don't need the warning. I'll figure it out. I'll know when the phone starts blowing up what's happening. It's okay.
Perfect.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's been a little bit of a struggle for us as we've amped our volume up and sent more mail and had more coming in as the system wasn't ready to handle it. So definitely stressed it. It broke a couple of times and we put Band-Aids on it. And we found ourselves at that point working in the business and not on it. And one day we woke up and we had our morning phone call we have on our way to our regular W-2 jobs and said, man, this sucks. Yeah, this feels like a second job. This isn't right. And that's when we, really buckled down and started working on the business as well and getting the systems tuned up and the accounting and keeping track of, all the records and stuff. So Are you guys still using Airtable as your kind of CRM?
Oh
Yeah,
boy,
times
are
five.
we.
I've had personally used custom made solutions in the past, in the distant past, when there wasn't all these types of CRMs available. And we have no financial connection with Airtable, but I can't be. I'm not. I couldn't be more impressed with this product because it's so easy to use and so easy to learn. It's not as robust as a lot of things out there, but out of the box, with the right education, it's working out great. I mean, do you agree, Joe? Because you're closer to
Mm-hmm.
this than I am.
I do. It's spreadsheets on steroids. Yeah, and I know that I'm just barely still scratching the surface. And truth time, we are all as a company all going back to Airtable school in the next couple weeks here, and
Us
myself
included, Joe
included.
and I included.
Uh-huh. Exactly. Like, all right, we're going to dig in and really be pros at this because I know there's so much more that it can do for us automatically. So we love it.
Nice. Do you
Hmm.
have an Airtable rep you would recommend? We're using Airtable now. I built it myself, and to say it's not eloquent is an understatement. So I could use a little education myself.
We
We're just
all are educating ourselves on Udemy.
Udemy, okay, sweet,
yeah.
sweet.
It's actually Udemy. So,
Oh,
but it's got
Udemy. Yeah.
that's a great place to learn things like Excel and
UDEMY. It's
great place to learn all kinds of
udemy.com. It's a
stuff.
great place for all kinds of miscellaneous training and things that you can do, stuff like that.
Got it. I'll check it out. I've been following Gareth Provost, I think is his last name, on YouTube for his content. And it's been pretty helpful, but again, it's pretty ugly what I've built, so need some help. But it works. It's functioning. It's functioning. So
Somebody
Exactly.
told me in my distant professional past that if you're not completely embarrassed by your MVP, your initial product, whatever it is, then you waited too long and spent too much time on it.
well, that's not me. I'm completely embarrassed by it. So that works.
You're doing it right.
Yeah, perfect. Good to hear. Good to
That's
hear.
right.
So, and
That's
then
like
What?
just
How many?
some more
What's your?
specific weirdness lately. HOAs have been coming out as pitfalls for us. So we purchased a property in, I believe it was Tennessee, and yesterday received a letter from an attorney telling us that businesses are not allowed to own property in this HOA. And this isn't the first time this has come up. So we've received actually quite a bit of correspondence from attorneys of HOAs upset that an LLC is buying property in their subdivision. And I would not have foreseen that coming.
So do you have to put it into your name? Do they want you to say get it out of the LLC and put it into a person's name, or you just saying I'm selling it as fast as I can. Give me a week.
Yeah, so we did say that first. Look, here's our whole strategy. Here's what we're doing. It's already back on the market. At least this guy in Tennessee, he is less than friendly. So yeah, they're asking that we transfer it into out of an LLC and into a private citizen's name, which isn't the end of the world for how we're set up. We actually don't have any money into this deal. Somebody else is funding it completely. We're marketing and taking just a little over half, which is sweet for us, no risk. But um, yeah, we're gonna move it out. So pretty wild.
That's funny.
Good. So you beat it. You beat the attorney's silly letter.
Yeah, we did this time. Yeah, yeah. So
Excellent.
we're adding it to our due diligence checklist actually, and we're debating internally about it. How far do you take reading the CC&Rs and bylaws of a property when we're buying it? Because in the past it hasn't been an issue. It just seems this year for some reason all the attorneys got together and decided they weren't sending enough mail themselves.
Yeah, they need more billable hours. So they can bill the HOA for sending in that letter.
Right, right. And I figure that's what's happening. But
Take a little chip
Ding
out of that
ding.
retainer.
You're
yeah,
so smart. That's
have you
great.
guys had much interaction with HOAs being a
Oh yeah.
pain?
Oh
Oh
yeah.
sure, sure.
Yeah, that's why you hear on the Thursday call, AJ, that I'm pretty much up HOA. See ya. I'm out.
Here's the deal with HOAs. All kidding aside, it's great to buy property in HOA because the value it's so easy to value. So you've got in a typical SFR or condominium HOA, you've got maybe one or two or three types of models, and so you can see historic sales or for sale property. And invariably, the ones that sell for the most are really remodeled, really remodeled well. And so and they sell for a lot more because the type of person that's a buyer in an HOA, they're professional people that don't really care about real estate. They're happy to pay the HOA fee, and they don't want to do any work on the house. So they're easy to value, and if you can get them substantially less than lower than the lowest value, you're going to do great, and it's going to sell fast. That's the good news. The bad news is there's all kinds of fees. So I mean, I think Jill and I did a deal last year, maybe last year or the year before, where we didn't do our due diligence and we got into the escrow situation, and there was a $2,000 transfer fee.
Oof.
So it was $2,000 on the front end and $2,000 when we went to sell it. So it took a bite out of the deal. We still did the deal and we still made out really well. So you just got to be careful with all that, especially if they have lawyers and stuff. They might be ready for somebody like you to just kind of fee you to death.
That sure is what it feels like. The buyer certainly, I mean, it's part of our due diligence checklist, right? HOA. He said, yeah, there is one. Don't know how much the dues are. Don't think I've ever paid them. So I feel like maybe the seller wasn't completely honest with us. So
They've
You got
just
to
been
check for
ignoring.
accumulated
They
fees
don't
for
even
sure.
open that letter when it comes in the mail, and it's
I
like
guess.
orange. What the heck?
I guess. Yeah, there were no liens on the property. So, typically when somebody's not going to pay the HOA fees and
They have
dues,
something to say about it.
It's
there's at least
interesting.
some record of it, but not this case.
It's interesting, Jill, because he opened AJ's letter.
He
Yeah.
did.
Called me
Yeah,
back, not the
That's true.
HOA.
he
Not
did.
the
Yeah.
HOA letter.
Yeah. He opened it, signed it, and mailed it back to us. I mean, he couldn't be happier to get rid of it. So, yeah.
And instead of it put a big lipstick kiss on it. Said, "Pick this."
Yeah. I
You know
will
what?
say the return mail is one of my favorite parts about this business. We
There you
actually
go.
keep a running folder of our favorite
Oh
hate mail,
yes.
of our angry mail. We've
Excellent.
got some real wonderful ones back. Like it's almost we trade them. Oh, I got this one. What'd you get? And
Yep.
we show each other. It's so funny. It's so
Like
funny that
baseball
somebody would
cards, you
waste their
trade.
energy and money to mail it back.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's great. It's
They
great.
spent
So.
more on the postage than I did.
Yeah, yeah. We actually had one, that mail technique where you put a button or a coin or something in the envelope. So people open it, the curiosity, they can't help themselves. They
Mhm.
actually put money in it. He put a quarter in it and shredded the letter, our letter, into pieces, and then put an FU letter on top of it. Like so much effort and additional cost in the weighted envelope. Like it's my personal favorite today. We just sent out another couple thousand, so we'll see what comes back. But yeah, it's my personal favorite. So
That is hilarious. I love it. That's good.
yeah, it's great.
Thank you,
So
Hunter.
all right, thanks guys. It was good
AJ, sorry
chatting
about
with
that.
you.
You
Yeah.
got it. Thank you.
Thanks, AJ.
Hey, hi, Hunter. I saw you. I want to get you in here. If you want to chime in here before we call it, we'd love to talk to you.
Oh,
Hunter,
there he
maybe.
goes.
Oh, there you are.
Hi,
Yay.
can you hear me?
Hi, how are
Oh
you? Yeah,
yeah.
we got you.
Good. All right. Yeah, I was thinking. I was just listening to to AJ. Um, maybe a trust would work if you buy it into a trust. It can still be held by an LLC, and they wouldn't notice because other people have trusts in the HOA. That might be a way to get around that. Uh, anyway, I was talking for pitfalls. I was gonna say also just managing unexpected, you know, like inbound calls, big time. Because I'm doing everything by myself, and I work a W-2 job as well, and it's like I would love it if there was just an app that made it really easy to, um, well, a record the call, but also, and I know that exists, but also just, uh, populate a template that I could put on there or something, like not automatically maybe, but at least just like do it on my phone because I'm on my phone. I do most of this with my phone most of the time, and I'll get on my computer when I can, after work or whatever, lunch breaks. So that I know I've left money on the table because of that, probably more than I'd like to know. But yeah, that's the main thing is just managing the inflow. Like sometimes you send something out and just everybody's calling you, and you're like, oh man, I must have overpriced it. And then you look and it's actually pretty good pricing. It's just sorting through all that. That's the hardest part that I've had. That and legal access. Figuring out legal access is the other pitfall I've been having trouble with. But those are the two.
What do you think, Joe?
Well, I love the problem with too many people calling me back. I think that's such a positive, weeding through those. And yeah, it takes some time. Usually it's like it comes in waves. You'll have a couple days that are nutty. You're like, okay, I'm going to be on the phone all day for 3 days, whatever, returning calls, catching calls, whatever it is, and figuring out what they have. And then I catch up. I come up for air in a couple days, and I can actually review them all and look at all the response that I get. And then that's a beauty too of Pat Live, especially if you've got a day job. You could, there's all kinds of other companies too. Just having a body answer the phone and capture those questions for you are great. And then one of the things I used to do if I was like, say I'm at work and I'm hiding under my desk because I may or may not have done this, and the phone's ringing and I'm talking to somebody, I know the call's recorded. And so I'll make sure I ask all the pertinent questions I need to ask. And all I have to do is write down real quick or text myself or something that time of that call. And I'll remember like, okay, the call that came in at 2:02 on whatever day, I got to go back and capture all those notes, and then I can write them down from my recording, which has been huge for me. And then the access stuff, you know what? You got this. You get better and better over time. You're gonna learn like the value of a plat map, and seeing things and spotting access and knowing what's possible, especially when you get to know an area. That's what I love too when you're getting started, and you doing a couple zip codes within one county in an area. After a couple deals, you're a pro. You know everybody at the county. You have you'll have stuff lined up, and even just the first, I don't know how many 10 calls that you take from sellers in a brand new area, you start learning what to ask. You start finding out after you did your due diligence yesterday and you found out that, hey, in this area there's a lot of flood zone stuff or whatever it is. To start asking about that and looking at that more detailed in your due diligence. So I think it's just experience. But I love that you're just doing it. That's
Yeah,
the
these
best
are
thing.
opportunities in disguise. These two issues, and
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah,
good
it's
thing.
definitely been like a just trying to hang on for dear life sometimes, because you send the mail out and then you don't know what's going to happen. Sometimes it's radio silence if you didn't price it right or you way underpriced it, and then other times it'll be um, like you just get everything all at once for like a week or two. Like
Yeah,
and so yeah, just uh, I heard that one episode of the podcast where I think it was actually an interview with a member who's the one to take imperfect action. So that's what I did when I first started, and it was definitely been a baptism by fire, but it's been fun. It's like
That's
it's
good.
one of the main things is like once you see how well the direct mail works, the way you guys do it, it's just like you. For me, also, I guess the third thing that I struggle with is keeping focus. Like it works so well. You start all these ideas start popping up in your head, and you're like, oh, you can do this for this and this, and like I may or may not have sent out a few mailers that where it was like I probably shouldn't have just because like I don't have any expertise, you know. But just I wanted to see what would happen.
That's
Um,
perfect.
yeah. I think
but
that I do that all the time, and that's the
You know
truth.
what?
I
It's
just want to see what's
hilarious.
going to happen here.
Watch you get a deal out of it. You're going to get, you're like,
Mm-hmm.
that was a mess, but what did you do? Well, I bought 3 properties. Okay, excuse
yeah,
me.
yeah, yeah. No,
Mhm.
there was definitely been a lot of stuff, and it's still in my spreadsheet too that I'm like talking to these people and stuff um, to see if I can figure it out. But they're kind of in states where I haven't worked before, so I'm learning that too. But yeah,
Mhm.
um, so
I
it's been interesting. But that's the main stuff is just the workflow because as I'm learning it, I think as I get better at learning the entire business, like learning all jobs involved, it'll get easier to manage the workflow. And plus, I could outsource it eventually too. But um, when you first start, you're doing everything, so you forget which hat you're wearing at which times.
That's true.
Yeah.
You know what I don't hear, Hunter, which I love? I don't hear fear. So
Yep.
thank you.
Or complaining.
Yeah. You're like, I don't know what I don't know. That excites me. It's kind of fun. Like, I guess I'm going to learn about this today. And now I'm going to
Yeah,
be the expert on fill in the blank.
yeah. I mean,
Hmm.
I had a lot of success with the infills, so I like that. That was great last year. And then, but I've been moving more to the rural vacant land just because like that was. I mean, those two things are the two things that obviously interested me in this whole thing. Like when I think I found Podolsky first. I didn't use his program, but he was kind of dropping some knowledge and stuff, and then a little bit, like as far as like the option stuff goes, and I was like that kind of piqued my interest. But
Hmm.
just for rural vacant land, and then when I actually started calling people that had tax property, I was had all these questions that were kind of obscure at the time and kind of whatever hard to find people talking about it. The only person I ever found talking about it was Jill, because that's back when you were doing those Ask Jill, or it was just
Hmm.
you talking for like an hour. Like that was back when you were doing those all the time. And like I was just like a fiend. I was just, I would sponge that stuff as much as possible. Like, I don't hear anybody else talking about this. So that was actually one of the reasons why I went with you guys. I'm like, if you guys are dropping this stuff for free, like imagine the stuff that you get when you pay for it, which was the case. It did turn out to be the case. Like, I mean, you
Thank
guys do
you.
mention a lot of stuff on the podcast. Um, a whole lot of the program you mentioned on the podcast. I wouldn't say everything, but uh, like once you get in there and you got the whole network, it's just like a lot more helpful. So, but anyway, yeah. So I want. Long story short, the reason why I got into all that was just I wanted to do the rural vacant land. I've been moving into that more, but I'm running into access things where hiring people to go out there and look at it if I have to or whatever. And then sometimes the county is kind of hard to contact or even know what they're doing. I've had it to where you buy the purchase price of the land is like $4,000, but then it needs a survey, and that's like 3 or 4 grand. What I mean?
Hmm.
So that's another thing I've had in really really cheap areas, like out in Kentucky. A lot of those places needed surveys, and
Mm.
the survey would cost as much as the whole land acquisition.
Yep. So you have to budget for that.
Now I know
Yeah,
you're for real, because that's an absolute reality. There's no way you would know that unless you're in this neck deep. So
Right.
I'm glad it's working out for you.
Thank
yeah.
you, Hunter.
Anyway, I'll ramble, so I'll let you guys go. I'll keep listening, but
That's
see you on the
awesome.
call.
Yeah. Thank
I got a
you.
property for you guys
Oh,
Excellent.
good.
on the call
Great.
today.
Good.
So
Well, I'm gonna say one thing, and then we'll get to Scott's question before we wrap it up. So, I was gonna say, thank you, Hunter, because you just now, I know when we're done with this today, Jack's gonna go. You need to bring those back. That what did I
That's
call it?
exactly what I'm going to say.
I know you're gonna say that. What did we call those? It was like, oh, property flip with Jill DeWitt. Remember that?
That's it. Yeah.
yeah,
That was like
those are
two
awesome.
years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those were cool. So it was
Oh,
way before I joined, but that was like what got me into wanting to join us. Yeah, you just to me at the time it was very esoteric knowledge, like wisdoms that like you didn't hear anybody
thank
else
you.
saying about like just real estate in general and all the technicalities. So
Oh,
that's kind of what got me into it. I was like, wow, that's people are just letting it rip. They don't
yeah.
care. They don't care. They're not like stingy, they don't have this like whatever scarcity mindset.
Yep.
That's what I liked about it. So
Thank
yeah.
you. I appreciate that. Yep. Now I got my work cut out for me.
Yeah.
Thanks, Hunter. I hope you're going to be
Thank
my
you.
producer because now you're in it.
I
You
will gladly
caused
be one
this.
of the viewers. I'll like and subscribe for sure.
Thank you.
I already
Perfect.
subscribed, but yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. And then before I talk to Sky here, I was going to say, anyone here in this room who's not in Land Academy is like, what are you guys talking about? You're going to talk about later today. Well, we have every Thursday. It's in 50 minutes from now. So 2 o'clock Pacific time. I guess that's 5 o'clock Eastern. 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. We have our every Thursday Land Academy member closed webinar where it's Jack and I on camera and we're looking at deals like screen sharing and talking about stuff. And it's a place like, for Hunter and AJ and everybody here to bring up their deals and we review them and talk about them or just answer any questions about anything going on in their world and things like that. So if you want to be included on that, happy to extend an invite, a one-time invite to today's call. All you need to do is just send a note to my team and they'll send you the Zoom link. So you can reach them at support at landacademy.com to say, okay, I'm on Clubhouse. I want to be on the Thursday call that's happening in 49 minutes. And my team will reach back out to you and get you give you the Zoom invites. You can get in and really watch and see and hear more about these numbers and the deals and the things that we do. So, but before we go, I know we're going over, and thank you so much, everyone. This is a great chat. I've learned this is better now if I don't give it a topic and just let this go because it keeps these are more fun. I want to see what Scott had to say. So, hello, Scott. How are you?
I'm good. How are y'all?
Great,
Excellent.
thank
Um,
you.
so some of the stuff you were talking about before is kind of a perfect segue into the situation I find myself because Thursday before last, I think I bombed y'all with a number of would you do this deals on the Thursday night call. You might remember those. Um,
You're good.
yeah, I think I usually show up as Richard on the
Okay.
during those calls. So
I'd use an alias too. I'm going to drop 20 of them and I'm going to use somebody else's name. I'm going to be
I
Lori
don't.
Phillips today. No, okay.
there
I
you
don't know
go.
if I don't know if my name's Jack or Steven, so you're still ahead of
There you
me.
go.
I had that question at the beginning. So the whole Jack and Jill thing.
Right.
So I'm in a situation where I got a number of contracts in. Some of them, and you saw some of them were steep, um, or there were water issues. And I kind of find myself where I'm almost looking and saying, am I being too strict on my criteria before buying something? So am I maybe looking for each piece of property to be too perfect? Because none of them are going to be perfect. Well, some might be, but um, and so I just kind of wanted to get maybe a little opinion of when you do things like I'll just use an example. There's a contract that I got in from someone. It's an acre. It's two infill lots actually right next to each other, but they haven't done a perk test. Um, and so at what point would I actually want to maybe sometimes roll the dice?
I have an opinion, Jack. I know you have an opinion. Do you want to go first?
You should go first.
Okay. So because there's two parts of this here. How picky do I get? And then, and then how far do I take it like to that extreme? So I want you to be picky, but not that picky. So when you're new, like the reason we had 4 A's and now 6 A's is to make sure you're not going to make a mistake. And when you're starting out and you're not sure about a deal, I want 6 A's or five, and I have six kind of thing A's. I want it so you just feel so good about it. You know that this is a great deal. And if you make sure you have the 6 A's, then you do. What's not on the 6 A's is extra things that people might want, might need, might be doing with the property. I'll take it all the way to the end and I'll know I'll have my description. I'll do a perk test. I'll get all the county information. I'll even map out where they can build. And I'm not doing any of that. So then it's like, so there's a point there that so the perk test, I don't do that. I stop there. And we talked earlier with I don't remember which it was. I think it was Chip talking about due
Water.
diligence.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I put that on the buyers. So I make sure though that the property is able to be used because it's one of the 6 A's for how I want to sell it kind of thing. They can build on it. They can do da, da, da. Where it's gonna perk and where they're gonna do this stuff, I don't go that far. Slash it. So when my buyer comes up though, I give them the opportunity, like Chip does, that's part of their due diligence. And if they want to take it to that level, I'm buying it right. I'm selling it right. I'm not high end retail with a bow on it kind of thing. And I'm not building on it for them. There's a big savings there. And if someone ever really pushes, this is what I tell them. Well, I need to know da da da. I'm like, okay, here's the deal. Like the exact boundaries. This has come up before. If you want me to go and do the survey and have someone walk it and mark it and do all the stuff for you, I can sure do happily do that. I can call and arrange it and just have Now, my time and my team and my energy and the cost of getting it all done, I can do that. However, I can tell you right now, I can tell you where to go, and get that information, who can do it. And it's going to be a heck of a lot cheaper if you do it. I've got the maps, I got the this, I got the that. We all know what it is. And they're like, you know what? You're right, Jill. Thank you. Done. What's your answer, Jack?
The truth is, Jill and I way too often err on the side of caution with land acquisitions, believe it or not. Our whole thing for a few years now, Jill and I have changed from huge volume business to let's just do fewer deals, but make sure they really count. And the way that we accomplish that is by sending out a lot more mail. So we send out tons more mail. We're way pickier or more picky about exactly what we buy. So we're effectively removing the risk. We've grossly increased our deal flow for a relatively small amount of money and time and effort, and dramatically reduced the amount of risk that we incur when we actually decide to both do a deal. And so, but that we have decades and decades of experience. So you might not. So I would suggest that you do exactly what you're doing. Send a ton of mail out, bring all the deals into either Discord or the Thursday call, and then just gain all the experience from that, because everybody will pipe in on both places unless you know if it's a good deal or not. And my final point is, it's not like buying a car. If you have a piece of property for sale, you've never seen it, you bought it, it's real cheap, you're selling it for way below market. My answer has always been, look, if you want to go do a perk test, this property's not fenced. Go do one. I don't care. I'm not going to take it off the market. And not just limit it to perk tests. Knock yourself out. Go out there, check, do all your due diligence, and then come back to me and tell me if you want to buy it. And 9 times out of 10, maybe 9.9 times out of 10, you'll never talk to that person again. The people that buy real estate, they say, I want it. Tell me what to do. A lot of tire kickers out there, and we don't entertain that.
That's true too.
So would you say then a lot of times, like for example, the perk test, would you buy it without a perk test?
Well, it depends on how detrimental it is. Jill and I we're in Arizona, and most of the deals that we do are in the South or the West. We do a bunch of deals in the East in certain places, but perk tests are kind of a funny thing for Jill and I, because I don't think that they're necessary anyway. And it takes on this like cult-like status in certain places in the country. Right. And then everything's got a perk test, and there's so many ways to get around that from a drainage, water, waste standpoint with technology the way that it is. So that doesn't mean you shouldn't do them. I don't know. You're going to have to make a personal choice on that.
It depends on the property and has size too. Like if I'm buying a 40-acre property, I'm pretty sure I can find a place that's going to perk. So I don't,
most of what I've gotten back is infill lot stuff,
okay.
But it's in North Georgia, and North Georgia being, somewhat mountainous, almost everything except for certain within, city limit areas is going to have a septic system. And even in some cases, they'll still. So that's kind of a big thing. I have to up here, because the environmental departments, of course, regulate whether or not you can do anything with the property.
So then,
I have a question. You're buying it without a perk test, though.
He's asking if he should do it before he buys it.
Oh, I thought you meant as a sales side. At what point are you thinking about this, Scott?
Oh, no. There's it's basically 2 parcels. It comes to about almost an acre in a neighborhood, and there's no perk test that's been done that anytime recently that would even count. So yeah, it's just kind of, do I buy this infill lot acre for 10 grand, or do I pass on it since I don't have a perk test?
I know what Joe would do. Joe would call back and say to the seller, there's no perk test with this. They're 6 months out on doing this, and they cost $3 grand. So I want to buy your property, but you want to wait 6 months and do it and, fill them in, or you say, I'll tell you what, for $3,000, we'll just get it all done right now.
Okay.
Exactly.
And if they don't like it, you just walk away.
Yeah.
Move on to the next one.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That's whatever it is, I'm baking it into the deal.
Right.
And I'm going to make it like we all know this needs, because you're right. There's some parts of the country, especially on a infill lot where someone's going to build a house. That's a whole different thing. That's not what I'm doing right now. So I'm not doing those, and that's part of the reason why I'm not in those areas. So,
Yeah,
I
there
would
just
bake it
seems
in.
just seems every deal I've had either a deep slope or there was an easement and there was no deeded easement to it, or there wasn't a perk test done. So I've literally turned down, I feel like I've turned down like 10 or 12, uh, you know,
Oh, okay.
attempts to sell me a property, at the moment. So,
I hear you. You know what,
and
Scott? I
I
hope
haven't
you.
done a deal yet. So for me, it's like, am I being too picky?
Okay. You know what? If you send out enough mail, this is part of the course, and I'm happy that you're being this picky.
Yeah, me too.
I don't want you to get in a pickle. And I hope you date like this too. Be real picky.
Well,
To quote
I did at
Jack.
some point upgrade to wife version 2.0. So,
Oh, there, there you go. See? This is good. So,
Just keep
yeah,
going. You're gonna hit gold.
we're being, Scott, we are like you right now. You are not nuts. I am kicking a lot to the curb because I can.
okay.
There's
Well,
so much
that
out
helps
there.
because
This
I'm
is
just kind of
good.
I'm sitting here on a mountain by myself doing this to some extent, and I don't have, this is like the only opportunity I get to actually have a verbal conversation with someone who has a clue, what I'm even doing. So yeah, so
Yeah.
this is helpful.
Excellent.
Good. We're glad you're here.
Glad it's working.
Yeah. Cool. And
Thanks,
I'm going to
guys.
see you in 40, no, 37 minutes on the Thursday call, on our call today. So I'm going to wrap it with that. So
Yes,
thank
because I
you
got
so
two.
much. Okay, good.
Good. Good.
You're going to get your deals ready. I know. So that's awesome. Cool. Well, thank you, everyone. Again, if you want to be on this call that we're talking about, send a note to support@landacademy.com, or you just want to learn more about us, what we do, or something. You can send them a note. Please follow us and follow our group. And you heard us talk about a podcast. There's all kinds of things that we offer, and you can Google us, you can find us, and you can read our bios and learn more. So another awesome call. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Jack. And thank you for everyone who spoke up. This is awesome. And we will be back in 2 weeks, which is actually St. Patrick's Day. Should be fun. So we will
Thanks,
catch you all
Joe.
then. Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Enjoy. Bye.